It is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on anime series, where I review them for you, and let them know how you can use them in your BESM games, your Big Eye, Small Mouth games, or any role-playing game system, really. Just have to adapt them. Now, let's start on with, I have two more from Spring 2014, and I got two from this season, well, technically now last season, of Summer 2017. But let's start with the two from the Spring 2014, Soredemo Sekai wa Utsukushii, and Akuma no Riddle. Let's start with Akuma no Riddle, or Riddle Story of the Devil. So in this private girls' academy, 13 students are being transferred in. 13 students making up a special 10th grade class known as the Black Class. But there's a secret about these 13 students. 12 of them are assassins. All of them there to kill the 13th. This girl named Haru, who is the target of all of them. But something happens along the way. One of the assassins, Tohaku, decides to protect Haru rather than kill her. And so she begins to oppose the other 11 assassins and prevent them from killing off Haru. Now this anime is an action series. They get into the battles between assassins. It is also a psychological thriller. There are dark connotations about all of the assassins' pasts and the reasons why they became assassins, the reasons why they're doing the bad, horrible things that they are doing that drives them. It's also a suspense. They get large amounts of tension and drama, not knowing when things are going to snap and when a true strike will happen, bringing intense feelings. Now I rate this one a 4. These aren't always my cup of tea for this type of anime, but this one was an exception that it was really good, and I do suggest checking it out. Now, for using this in a BESM game, I'd recommend 250 points. What you're going to do is going to have your group of characters be a group of assassins who have decided to protect your target rather than kill it. In this case, mimicking the Black Class. Whether or not you put it in the exact same setting or not will be completely up to you as the game master. But you will have your version of Haru that your players are attempting to protect. They'll oppose other assassins that are being sent in order to kill them. Whether, again, classroom setting, or some other kind of similar setting where it's one group of assassins versus many, rather than one versus many. You might want to use more assassins or alternate ways to make it more challenging with the numbers that you'll be having. Regardless, each of the characters themselves will have their own tragedies and darkness in their past which drove them to originally become assassins, and should have it built into their story as to why they are helping out Haru. This tragedy will drive them in a lot of the ways that they act around this character and deal with the other assassins and their own dark pasts, and dealing with the fact that they've decided to protect rather than kill. But let's move on and talk about Soredemo Sekai wa Utsukushii, or The World is Still Beautiful. We focus on Nike, who is the fourth princess of the Rain Kingdom. She goes to the capital of the Sun Empire in order to appease the Sun King. Effectively, the Sun King is giving her small kingdom its own sovereignty. The fact is, she has a special power that she can call forth rain. Upon arriving at the Sun Kingdom, she learns that the king of this kingdom, the one that basically conquered the known world in 3 years, is a young boy, and he demands she make it rain. But she resists this, and so he starts by throwing her into jail. And that is where the tumultuous relationship between these two begins. A relationship of someone who's been sent there to protect her kingdom and effectively become queen, marry the king. And then a king who is, in a way, both an adult and a child. A young child forced to become much more adult than many others around him, and to become the king that conquered the world, and the relationship he now has with his new queen. So this is, of course, a fantasy. We have the power to control rain being in it. Other sort of mystical abilities do exist, but that is the main one we do focus on. It is very much so a comedy. The relationship between these two can result in very silly and funny actions and things that will happen. And Nike herself has a very interesting personality and is very straightforward, often resulting in situations. It is also a good degree of romance. The developing relationship between these two, the young king and his betrothed wife, that they are developing a relationship with each other until they can effectively mature themselves beyond the situation that they are. And it's interesting that way. Now, I rate this one a 5 because there is it's a very interesting historical connotations about a lot of these things, because, you fit it into context. This seems like something that might happen in our own history to a degree. Sans the magic powers of making it rain. But it's a very interesting story, and the romance and the comedy work very well together. And the entire aspects of it just work fine, that I enjoyed it quite a lot. If you're using BESM game, I recommend 200 points. This one was a little bit of a challenge for me to think of a great way to use it in BESM. And here's what I came up with. You're going to make your party of characters the ruling party of a kingdom. Whether this means one's a king, one's a queen, others a general, whatever roles it's take will be completely up to the development of between them. But regardless, each one of them will fill this role in this powerful empire. And each one of them might not necessarily get along to the best degree. And that will be some of the tension between them. Perhaps romantic feelings will develop between certain characters. Perhaps you'll bring in other NPCs which will form as romantic foils. But the sheer fact is they'll be developing their own relationships with each other and dealing with the tensions with each other and the problems as to why they might not get along 100%. But also they'll be dealing, of course, with the threats that may be from outside of this kingdom. A kingdom which has effectively conquered the known world. There still might be some threats out there. But there also might be threats from within this kingdom, and dealing with both of those will be an important aspect of this entire game. So it's both going to be developing and focusing on their relationships, and the threats that are going to come together and may force them to come together to a degree, and bond and strengthen those bonds more and quicker. Now let's move on and talk about the two from summer 2017, Saiyuki and Vatican Kiseki Chousakan. Let's start with Vatican Kiseki Chousakan, or Vatican Miracle Examiners. Now, the story follows two men as part of this mysterious organization from within the Vatican. It is their job to go out and examine possible miracles. Miracles, of course, of the religious nature, and to find out whether they're real or not. Their investigations lead them oftentimes to other mystery, in particular murder mysteries, where their own investigation skills will be used to help solve those along the way. So it becomes this dual layer of not only are they investigating these possible miracles, but there's oftentimes other dangers there. Murder, death, perhaps even other forms of corruption that they have to uncover. And along the way, they also have to deal with other shadowy organizations from within the Vatican that are attempting their own control of the system, of the religion. Now, of course, this is a mystery. They're attempting to solve mysteries here and there, trying to overcome them. It is a supernatural to a degree. There's always the thought of these miracles going on and whether they are real or not. And sometimes it is more obvious than others whether they are true or not. But it always seems to have that supernatural tinge to it. And of course, it's a drama. Dark things happen where they go, of course. The murder mysteries, the other corruptions that exist, especially when they uncover that a miracle is not real. And people may have done things like fake it. Things like that occur, or jumping to conclusions, which drive oftentimes people to desire for it to be a miracle beyond what seems reasonable belief. Now I rate this one a 3. It's a very interesting one. The entire Vatican and miracle angle is a very interesting one to take, but particularly their mystery solving and the mysteries they get into and the darkness around these mysteries is what drew me into it to a good degree and made me think it was quite an interesting one to check out. So, if you like a good mystery, I definitely could recommend this one for at least checking it out that way. Now, for using it at BESM point, I'd recommend 200 points. You're going to make your group of characters a team going around proving if miracles are just that. They'll be working for the Vatican, of course, part of the same organization that our two men are in the normal anime. And along the way, they'll oftentimes face the other dangers and mysteries involved with the miracle itself, that maybe there's darkness or corruption associated with. Murder is a common thing for you to throw in there, but add variety to what things are. The fact is that them discovering a miracle is not something that they're most likely going to do. But the truth of why people thought it was a miracle in the first place is one of the mysteries of it. Whether it's something that's faked or by chance seems very close. Or people jump to conclusions. But the discovery of this miracle and why people latched onto it, and the darkness that might associate with people, the corruption that might associate with knowing that this possibly exists, could be an interesting angle to dive into for your characters. And of course, along the way, having them deal with other darker organizations and aspects of the group they work for, the Vatican, might be interesting too. It is up to you how much of that entire aspect of the series you want to bring in to your adventures, if at all. But let's move on and talk about Saiyuki. So this is a story of 4 heroes? Anti-heroes? Well, 4 group that are effectively being sent far to the west. This is the Journey to the West in an interesting format. If you don't know the Journey to the West story, well, it is a classic tale from Asian mythology that you can check out yourself. But this is a version of it. So effectively, these characters have been sent by the heavens, in this case referred to as Shangri-La, in order to effectively stop the resurrection of the Ox Demon King. Now, unfortunately for them, the Ox Demon King, the people that are attempting to resurrect him, have begun to experiment in ways to bring him back, and one of the ways was to create a maddening wave, which causes demons to go crazy. Now, there had been a sort of tense peace between demons and humans, but now with this madness overcoming them, things are breaking down. The societies that now had begun to exist between both demons and humans have begun to go combat. So they have to deal with the after effects of this, assassins that are coming after them, the forces that still want to resurrect the Demon Ox King and prevent them from stopping them all along their journeys. And of course, each of these characters has their own personal tragedies and dark backstories that they'll be dealing with, that maybe communicating with it directly with each other is a hard thing to do, and the tense actions and battles that occur sort of drive them together as a group of sort of friends thrown into this situation which they have to battle together. And it's all about the journey. That's what these 4 are going on. The journey. And the fact is, they go over a large number of manga and anime series. And the reason why we're talking about this one now is that the latest season of it is out now, of course. Now, its genres, of course, are action. They get into big battles with various demons, assassins, and other strange enemies. It's adventure. They're constantly traveling west, going over to very many places. They're trying to get to India from Shangri-La, which is an unsort of specified place in China, I guess. It's very unspecified as to exactly how far they're traveling, but very far. It's also supernatural. They have each abilities of their own, which allows them to combat the demons and be very powerful fighters battling against them. Now I rate this one a 4. Now, I have actually, in fact, read more manga for this one than I've seen the anime series, but I have been watching the latest one. I missed a lot of the earlier seasons, but again, read a lot of the manga, and it's a great series. It's a very interesting one. The characters are all flawed in an interesting way that draws you into them. Again, it's not a perfect one, but it's a pretty good one that I could recommend. Now, if you're using this in a BESM game, I recommend 400 points. You're going to make your characters a group heading west in order to stop the resurrection of the Ox Demon King. They'll be journeying along the way, of course, dealing with their own personal problems, similar to our characters in the anime. Each one of them will have that. Dealing with demons, assassins, the fact that demon and human relationships have now broken down into a sort of dangerous situation between them, and other threats along the way that maybe they want to get themselves involved in sometimes. Maybe they don't. So as they travel to stop this resurrection, they'll have to go along all these adventures along the way. Perhaps helping some people out here, choosing when it's not necessary to help them out, when they have to continue traveling west. Because the stopping of the resurrection is their final end goal and will theoretically help everyone. If they can stop the madness, well, maybe tensions between humans and demons can die down. Probably not easily or directly, but maybe something can be done, which it can't be right now. And it's going to be this entire storyline which will drive it home. The storyline that you'll be building around this twisted dark nature of what's going on, because it seems such light action. but there is a darkness to the anime that you want to bring into your game. A dark undertone of the tragedy of both characters and the world. But that's it for today. I introed 4 new anime series to you, gave you some suggestions on how you could use them in your BESM games, which, may I note, you can always adapt to another RPG if you want to just adapt the gaming system. Suggestions work fine. Just building your characters, throwing them into the system, that's what you'll have to worry about. So some systems fit better than others. Up to you find out which one you really want to use. But I hope you're having a great day, and until the next time, I bid you farewell.